YouTube, my name is Jake Asman. Welcome in to my channel. We got a very special guest joining us to break down the upcoming New York Jets season, talk about the game against the Panthers and Sam Darnold on Sunday from TurnOnTheJets.com, and the co-host of the Badlands podcast. We welcome Joe Caporoso. Joe, appreciate the time as always. Great to get you on the YouTube channel.
Thank you for having me. Very happy that football is back.
No doubt about that. Before we get to Joe, I do want to remind everyone to please subscribe down below if you're new to the channel. Like this video. It helps the channel grow, and we can continue to post daily Jets video content. So, Joe, let's kind of get right into it, man. I mean, we waited a long time to actually feel some excitement about the New York Jets again entering a season. Even last year, I felt like us Jet fans, we tried to talk ourselves into, well, Sam's going into year 3. You know, they finished 7-9, 6-2 in the second half, and then, well, very quickly, we knew the year was a total waste, and it was more about getting to the end of it to see where the Jets were going to be ended up in the draft. But after a long offseason full of a lot of moves, how do you feel right now, a couple days out, about where this team is at, the direction they're headed, and what should Jet fans maybe expect from the 2021 team going forward?
Look, I think it's a much more exciting season than the past 2 years. There's no doubt that there's reason to be optimistic where there really hasn't been, especially last season. I think you have a coach that has done all the right things so far, is easy to rally around. He has a very easy act to follow in Adam Gase, who was understandably one of the most disliked coaches in franchise history. I think Darnold, unfortunately ran his course last year and really struggled, and the Jets made the right decision by moving on to a new quarterback. And Zach Wilson had the kind of summer that should have Jet fans really excited. And is this team ready to compete for the playoffs? No. Their depth chart, particularly at cornerback, linebacker, leaves some major question marks on the defensive side of the football, but can they be a team that is much better on offense and shows a strong foundation to be a competitive team that does compete for a playoff spot in 2022? Yes, I think so. And I think they will be competitive this year. They will be more entertaining to watch. I think their offense will be better than their defense, which is a rarity when it comes to the Jets. And I think that if they can get to 7-10, which is not the most exciting record in the world, but it is over their Vegas over-under total, and it is a 5-game improvement over last year, and it's on the backs of their offense and a strong Zach Wilson rookie season. I think fans will rightly be excited about that, knowing how young this roster is. This is as young of a team as I've ever seen the Jets roll out, especially on the defensive side of the football. So there's going to be some growing pains there, but the talent on offense is at a much different level than it usually is for this team. At this time last year, we were talking about Chris Hogan and Frank Gore and Josh Malone, and now we're talking about Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, Zach Wilson, Michael Carter. It's definitely, the page has been turned there in a positive way.
You look at this quarterback, obviously, if the Jets are ever going to have long, sustained success, Zach Wilson needs to become a franchise quarterback. Is it a certain stat you're looking to see Zach Wilson hit this year? Is it something that you just kind of look at and like you'll know if he's good just based on watching him and beyond what the numbers might say? How will you properly evaluate, kind of what you're seeing from Zach Wilson in 2021?
I think we want to see Wilson. It sounds very basic, but the Jets just couldn't score touchdowns the last 2 years. They averaged 1.3 offensive touchdowns a game, and you just can't compete in the NFL like that. That's why the Jets were getting blown out so regularly and were 2-14 last year. Can he direct an offense that is scoring 2 or 3 touchdowns a game, like a modern NFL offense, with 17 games? Today's league is built for passers. So can he put up credible statistics where he is throwing for over 20 touchdowns, where his yards per attempt is over 7, where he is getting well up over 3,000 yards? These sound like crazy numbers for a Jets quarterback, but they're not crazy in today's NFL. That is, middle of the road production for a starter. And Wilson has enough talent to go out and statistically have one of the best seasons that a Jets quarterback has had in a really long time. And I think if he starts 16 or 17 games, it is not crazy to think he could throw for over 3,500 yards. He could throw for 23, 24, 25 touchdowns. His yards per attempt could be over 7, whereas Darnold struggled to get it to that range last year. There's going to be some turnovers. He did a very good job of protecting the ball in the preseason and protecting himself. Can he balance those turnovers with still being aggressive, throwing past the sticks regularly on third down, showing a short memory? Can he show up in divisional games. The Jets, the last few years, have just gotten wiped in these games and not even been competitive offensively. Can he lead stealing a game from Miami and New England? I think those are the kind of benchmarks you'll be looking for. There'll be some bumps in the road, but there's definitely a world where Zach Wilson is the most productive rookie quarterback of the 5 this year, as he's one of the only 3 who's starting from week 1.
Do you look at the fact that he was named a team captain as a rookie? Do you look at that as a significant milestone early on in his career?
I think it's encouraging, yes. I think there was some silliness about when and how he was named the captain at BYU that was overblown. I think it's always encouraging in a player vote that your quarterback is a captain. I don't think it guarantees anything, but I think it's a red flag if he's not a captain. That's a bad sign if your quarterback is not clearly one of the top 4 or 5 leaders on the team. So the fact that he has endeared himself well enough this quickly to his veteran teammates is an encouraging sign. And I think the reports, you can't get too excited about training camp reports because they are what they are, but everything we've heard has been exactly what you want to hear in terms of his work ethic, in terms of how he is fitting in and getting along with his teammates, how he produced in the preseason, especially in the Green Bay game, has all been good. So now we see when it really matters, when the bullets are really flying and they count. And again, it's not the hardest defense in the NFL to start out with, right? It's going to be a much bigger challenge week 2 and week 3 against New England and Denver. Those are 2 of the top, 5 to 7 defenses in the NFL. Carolina's a bottom 3rd defense until they prove otherwise. So I think there's going to be a lot of points scored on Sunday, and hopefully Wilson could be on the winning end of that.
Joe Caporoso from Turn on the Jets is with us here on the Jake Asman YouTube channel. So, Joe, Robert Saleh, a lot of fans still in the honeymoon phase, I would say, with Coach Saleh. Of course, he's not Adam Gase. He's a totally different personality than prior Jets head coaches, really, since Rex Ryan. When you look at Robert Saleh, what can he do this year to, prove that he is the long-term answer at head coach? We probably won't know after just one season, but what do you want to see from Robert Saleh as a head coach year 1?
I think I want to see him involved with the entire football team, which has always been a problem for previous Jet head coaches who silo themselves to one side of the football. And I think he's done a good job of laying the groundwork for that by not being the defensive coordinator himself and really making a point of emphasis to be involved in all 3 phases of the game. I want the team to be more aggressive. It's a repeated request of Jet fans. If it's a borderline thing, go for it on 4th down. Don't punt. Don't fold when you're down 10 points in the second half and just try to run out the clock for a loss. Play more aggressive overall and just bring a little more energy and an identity to this team. And I think we've seen the signs of that. We'll see it in the game. I think Jet fans are realistic. No one expects this team to go 11-6 this year. It's not fair coming off a 2-14 season. We want to see competitive football week in, week out. We don't want to start 0-7 or 0-13. We don't want the season to be over by the first week of October. Win a couple early season games, fight in these games, keep them competitive, and I think everyone will be satisfied with the first year just because of the dumpster fire they're cleaning up, candidly, from last year. And you saw with when Adam Gase left Miami and Brian Flores took over, I think they started that season actually like 0-7. And they finished like 5-7 down the stretch, and then they won 10 games last year. I don't know if the Jets are going to follow that exact trajectory, but move the ball forward this year in terms of being competitive and then be ready to seriously compete in 2022.
Joe, looking at this Jets defense, obviously a lot of question marks with the corner group. They're going very young and inexperienced at that position. What do the Jets defensively have to do to overachieve? Like, who are some of the guys you look at and say they need big seasons from this player if they're going to be a lot better defensively than what most people expect?
I mean, their defensive line has to be, even without Carl Lawson, has to be among one of the best in the NFL to cover for these cornerbacks. The cornerbacks are going to get burned at certain points. It's inevitable, even though they have veteran safeties and a good safety in Marcus May. There's going to be problems back there. But if Quentin Williams, Sheldon Rankins, John Franklin Myers, and maybe to a lesser extent Shaq Lawson and Bryce Huff can bring a strong pass rush, particularly Williams, who is an all-pro caliber player if he's really rolling, that will mitigate some of the problems with the cornerback position. And those guys have a great opportunity to do that right out of the gate in week 1. If Carolina has a weakness, it is their interior offensive line, especially now that John Miller, one of their starting guards, is not going to play as he's on the COVID list. So they're starting Pat Elflein, who Jet fans know is a backup for the team from the past couple of years, and Dennis Daly, who I think has 3 career starts. So that is the mismatch that Quinnen Williams and Sheldon Rankins, who, when they're right and healthy, are two of the most disruptive interior defensive linemen in the NFL. If they dominate that matchup, that is the kind of thing that mitigates the problem of Brandon Echols and Javelin Guidry trying to cover DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson, because they'll be able to disrupt Sam Darnold. So they're going to have to do that a lot this season. They don't have a true gauntlet of elite quarterbacks. So if they could do that when they're playing guys who are inexperienced, like Mac Jones or Tua, or guys who are borderline average starters, like a Teddy Bridgewater or a Jalen Hurts, that is how they'll steal some games and get to 6 or 7 wins.
Joe, when you look at a player on this Jets defense and CJ Mosley, I mean, we have barely seen him play football over the last 2 years, but, I saw you guys talking about this on Badlands. If CJ Mosley is like 80 or 85% of what he was when we last saw him, he's still a really good player. What are your expectations for CJ Mosley coming back for this defense?
I mean, he's critical because he's going to be surrounded by 2 day 3 rookies, right? So they're going to be counting on him a lot to direct the defense and make sure these guys are lined up in the right spot, executing their assignments. He's coming back at a lighter weight, which makes sense because the Jets are going to ask him to cover more than he has in the past in this system. And when Mosley's right, he is one of the best inside linebackers in the NFL. I don't know if he's going to get back to being the guy he was 2 years ago when the Jets paid him that contract, but if he could be 85, 90% of that guy, that's one of the better inside linebackers in football, and will add a degree of stability to the second level of the defense they badly need, because Hamsah Nasruddin and Jermaine Sherwood are rookies, and they're day 3 rookies. These are not guys taken in the first round. They were taken in the 5th and 6th round. So they are going to struggle this year. It is inevitable. Don't get mad at them for it. They're being kind of hung out to dry in some ways by being asked to start day 1. Mosley can help mitigate some of the problems with that, with being close to the player he was in the past. And it'll be interesting to see how the Jets try to coach around having so many young players in the back half of their defense.
Speaking of rookies, are you as excited as pretty much every Jet fan is to see what Elijah Moore could do in this offense?
Yeah, I mean, Moore has the ability to be this offense's primary playmaker and brings an ability to create long, explosive plays that they haven't had probably like since Santana Moss. That's how long it's been. Moore missed a lot of the preseason. He missed the whole preseason, and he missed a chunk of camp. But by all reports, when he was out there in camp, he was one of the best players in the field. I think he's really immediately going to be slotted in as the other starting receiver besides Corey Davis and get a lot of manufactured touches and opportunities early in the season. And he's a guy that, while I think Corey Davis will lead the team in targets, receptions, yards, I think Moore will provide the big playability, and I think the Jets will take a lot of shots down the field with him. I think they'll get him involved in the running game, and I think he's going to bring a certain dynamic to this Jets offense that they've been lacking.
Looking at the offensive line now, do you feel a lot better about this group of offensive linemen protecting rookie Zach Wilson than anything Sam Darnold had in his 3 years with the Jets?
Look, yes, I think this lineup is much better on paper than it's been in the past. There's no doubt about that. We haven't got to see a lot of Elijah Vera Tucker yet. I can promise you he'll be better than what we saw from Dan Feeney in the preseason. So, Vera Tucker is a big upgrade at guard. Morgan Moses, who I do think will be the starting right tackle, should be an upgrade there and adds a different level of size and physicality to that position. For all the nitpicking around Mekhi Becton, he looked very good in both preseason games and was very good last year outside of a couple of minor hiccups here or there. So on paper, they have the ability to have one of the better tackle duos in the NFL. I think Vera Tucker adds a lot of talent to the interior offensive line. Connor McGovern and Greg Van Routen are okay at best, and they don't need to be better than that. If they could be okay and those other 3 guys play up to their potential, this will be a much, much better unit than they've had in the past. Now, yes, they need to stay healthy. Their tackle depth is okay, actually, with you having George Fant there as a third tackle, a guy who can start in this league. On the interior offensive line, it's not so pretty. They really can't sustain an injury there, but most teams can. It's not easy to build out that many good backup offensive linemen, but on the whole, this is a much better unit than we've seen in recent years.
Let's get you out of here on this, Joe. The record prediction for the New York Jets in 2021.
I'm going with 7-10. I'm kind of stuck with that one for a bit. I think when you look at their schedule, games against Cincinnati, Jacksonville, Philadelphia, Houston, Carolina, I think are all winnable, at least on paper. Never mind some other ones like Atlanta that I think they could steal. I think they're not going to go 0-6 in the division again. I don't think they're going to have a winning record in the division, but I think they could steal 1 or 2 AFC East games. And I think ultimately they net out an encouraging as it can be, an encouraging 7-10 with the offense making a big leap forward from last year.
There you have it. He's Joe Caporoso, TurnOnTheJets.com, co-host of the Badlands podcast with Connor Rogers. If you're a Jet fan, got to be listening to Badlands. Joe, appreciate the time, man. Great to get you on right before the season. And it's an exciting time to be a Jet fan again. It feels nice to actually be able to say that.
It's a rarity, but fans should be excited for this year, especially on the offensive side of the football.
He's Joe Caporoso. My name is Jake Asman. This has been the Jake Asman Show. Please subscribe down below if you are a first-time viewer. Thanks so much for watching. Once again, Joe Caporoso, TurnOnTheJets.com, Badlands podcast. Check it out, Jet fans. Should be a lot of fun this year. Guys, thanks for watching. See ya.